Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It's me, E. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I put together this custom-made Totoro mobile. Here are all the pieces that I made for it. I made leaves and acorns, soot sprites, and the Totoros, which you saw me make the big gray Totoro and the little white Totoro in previous videos. I needle felted those in the acorns, and I made the soot sprites out of pom-poms and felt. I was inspired by a couple of mobiles I saw online, like this one from Inspire Uplift and this one from Etsy. I put the prices on the screen, and they are expensive, but I will say I don't think that they're overpriced, and I'll talk more about that later in the video. They used what looked like embroidery hoops, but I decided to use a macrame hoop just because I liked the thinner look of it, but I did wrap it in twine. And this is a giant needle that I'm going to use to actually poke the string through the various figures, creatures that are going to hang from the mobile. With the soot sprite pom-poms, I had to be really sure that I actually got the needle through like the dead center of the pom-pom, where you feel the most resistance, rather than just the fluff on the edge, because obviously it wouldn't stay and hold up if I did. So I had 6 total strings hanging from the edges, and then 1 center string hanging down the middle. And in order to make sure that all of the strings were equidistant around the macrame hoop, I measured the diameter of the hoop and then did a little pi d to find out what the circumference of the hoop was. And then from there I divided that by 6, so I knew how many inches apart or centimeters apart each string should hang. And I marked it with a pencil, which after I tie it around in the end you can't see the pencil marks anymore. But that's how I made sure that all of the pieces hanging around the outside were equidistant from each other. These wooden beads are basically the only thing I didn't hand make for this mobile, and I think it was a really great touch. Both the inspiration pictures that I showed used some wooden beads in them, and they add kind of filler and like cohesion, I think, to the design. Now, my design is not necessarily as crowded as some of the other ones are, but I felt like in some of the designs I saw online of Totoro themed mobiles, they were a little overcrowded and you couldn't see all of the elements. Like you couldn't very easily see the Totoro in the middle or all of the design elements around the edges. I didn't want it to look sparse, of course, but I didn't want it to look overcrowded. Part of that was making sure that I chose a good sized macrame hoop, one that was not too big or too small, and I think that I got the size basically just right. I will say it looks a little bit violent to be stabbing up through the heads of these little Totoros. The acorns, it doesn't bother me as much, but I did feel kind of like a mad scientist stabbing into each one of these little Totoros. The twine that I used to string up the mobile was too thick, not for the needle, but for the needle plus trying to get it through the needle felted figures. So I actually took the twine and split it in half. So I think that it was a twine of maybe 12 individual strings, and so I split it into 6. That, or it was 6 and I split it into 3. I don't remember exactly, but it was thick enough that it still felt sturdy, but not so thick that I couldn't get the needle through each of the pieces. A lot of the pieces, I think there's enough texture and friction just between the felt and the twine to keep it from slipping off, but I still tied knots around most everything to make sure that it didn't slide down and everything stayed in place. I also measured each string from the hoop before I tied it to make sure they were all hanging about the same distance. So I think it was 12 centimeters from the hoop to the bottom of the bottommost figure on each string. I found those mobile inspiration pictures while browsing Pinterest, which I'm not a Pinterest girly usually. I tend to peruse other websites more frequently, but Pinterest is a good place to go if you're looking for specific inspiration. And so I found those while looking for general like Totoro themed nursery inspiration. And as you saw, the prices of those mobiles were mostly over $100. And even the one I showed from Etsy that was $98 or however much, less than $100, it was on sale, originally priced at $140. So the cost of the materials for me making my version came in around $60. So that was a needle felting kit that I used to make the majority of the Totoro pieces. I also had to buy extra blue wool to make the blue Totoro. Of course, I bought the black pom-poms. Those were very cheap. And the white sheet of felt to make the Soot Sprite's eyes, also very cheap. The twine, the macrame hoop, the big needles, the wooden beads. And I mean, that's pretty much the majority of the cost. I had to buy the felt for the leaves. But like the felt sheets are less than 50 cents each. The pom-poms, I think the whole bag of pom-poms was less than $3. So the cost, the majority of the cost was the needle felting supplies. And obviously I had to get some hardware to hang this with from the ceiling over the bed. And that came from Lowe's. And the system that I had my husband screw into the ceiling, that cost less than probably, I think it was like $5, $6, very cheap. So again, all costs together probably around $60 for the supplies, majority of which being the needle felting supplies. And some of that wasn't really even necessary. I would say a lot of it wasn't even necessary because the needle felting kit came with needles and stuff. But when you count up all the hours it took me to make it between needle felting the 3 Totoros and the 4 acorns, making the 4 Soot Sprites, hand embroidering the details on the leaves, wrapping the twine around the macrame hoop, all of that combined, and then stringing it up at the end, which was the most difficult part, was trying to get them to hang evenly so that it wasn't crooked. It still kind of wound up crooked, but all of that together probably took 10 hours or more. So I would say between the cost of materials and the time it took to create, I would say that those $150 prices are probably pretty fair. So you weigh for yourself whether you think it's worth it to try and make your own if you want to do this, or just buy one of the ones online. I enjoy making crafts, so I think it was worth it. But let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I will see you all later. Bye-bye.